You're here.
Thank you, Hannah. It's great to be with you all in these pixelated spaces. I am grateful each day when I get to have a few moments online, even though there's a certain taxing quality to this kind of communication. It's still so meaningful. Many a morning the last couple of weeks. Can you hear me okay out there? Maybe I should verify. Okay, you can. Good. Many a morning the last few weeks, I've been meeting with students in these spaces, 8 o'clock in the morning. And again, an hour and a half later, I meet with another group. And with senior projects, I'm meeting with people. And so I'm constantly, our students are engaging in these spaces. And you'll be glad to hear that actually when we went online, my classes, the attendance even improved online over in class in the last few weeks because they're all looking for connection and community. And so it's been that's been meaningful time with some of our current students, and so to see many of you all across the country and friends, and I see various names popping up here. I just want to say thanks for being here. I want to start with a poem that interacts with Earth Day and some of what's pulsing in the world as we think about our Earth, and we see images right now in the midst of the last month all over the world of spaces that are not being occupied by humans quite as much, and what that's meant to the environment and to life. And so this poem is it's called "And Burning." And burning. Before the tree burned our burgers and brats and smoked our occasional eyes, I watched my neighbor's good children spinning hooks into the old oak's trunk. They wound the tree round with string and sang something high-pitched. The neighbor, light beer in his hand, walked onto his deck and raised a fist of darts and a can of red spray paint. Below a knot that looked like the wise eye of an owl, he sprayed an uneven circle with an inner spot. The tossers began tossing. Dart after dart winced through the bark to thump in the splintered wooden heart. Other neighbors arrived with bows and arrows, hatchets and BB guns. The kid who took the ricochet to the temple we later learned would be fine. So would the woman who lost grip on the axe and took out a toe, just a baby toe, actually a baby's baby toe. But we're all okay. Things happen. We were all so hungry, and the tree was screaming to fall and fuel a fire. So another neighbor got a chainsaw and another a boat chain to latch to his pickup to drop the soon cropped tree safely between the power lines and the gas meter. It fell to plan, clean into the dry creek bed behind our home. The children danced along its bridge from the fresh cut stump. We counted the circles to 94 to the tip top of the grounded tree. A good neighbor brought dogs and buns. Someone asked, should we be doing this? But they were hungry too. Everyone wanted something more than to yell over a chainsaw, which didn't hurt any of us. Everything's so safe these days. I felt bad for a moment when the old tree swooshed down, exhaling a quick breath that touched us all. I said, I feel bad, and several of us nodded. Then we all made quick work of the wood and lit up an old-fashioned pyre. We ate our fill of mustard and burgers and dogs, and everyone's kid said to daddy or mommy, let's do another tree. So we did. We do. A strange poem that kind of imagines this weird this weird community potluck where they're destroying the trees. Poetry often gives us strange entry points to communicate about our world and our choices. I want to read a poem. This is a poem called, in the book, Deaf Republic by Ilya Kaminsky. Ilya Kaminsky is the Bourne Chair of Poetry at Georgia Tech, and he's a member of the faculty in the MFA program at Randolph College. I can't say the MFA program at Randolph College without shouting out to Judy, who I see on the screen there. So hello, Judy. It's wonderful to see you guys. The Ilya Kaminsky joined our faculty not too long ago. This book, Deaf Republic, is widely considered one of the best books published last year. It won the LA Times Book Prize last week, for example, and it's up for many major awards. It's been a finalist for many. This poem is the first poem in the book. It's called "We Lived Happily During the War." And when they bombed other people's houses, we protested, but not enough. We opposed them, but not enough. I was in my bed. Around my bed, America was falling, invisible house by invisible house by invisible house. I took a chair outside and watched the sun. In the 6th month of a disastrous reign, in the house of money, in the street of money, in the city of money, in the country of money, our great country of money, we, forgive us, lived happily during the war. I'll switch tones. I saw another person pop up in here. One of my former students, Travis Byram, is here. Travis is an actor, a writer, and a vibrant young man who once used this poem as a monologue for an audition. So I'm reading this in honor of him. I saw him pop up, and I thought I'll read this. This poem, it's called Pothead Pete's English Presentation, and I wrote it after years of teaching students and asking them to give presentations and write papers and encountering the funny, strange, absurd things that you end up hearing I wrote this incidentally before I taught at Randolph. So anything in here wasn't our students. Our students are originals, right? Being original, I mentioned that. Maggie's here. I see him. Hi, Maggie. That's for you. Pothead Pete's English Presentation. Shakespeare, the top American writer ever, wrote his plays in an English accent like Russell Crowe. Merchant of Venice is a problem play because it's about hard crap like racism and the civil rights movement, but not Martin Luther King, who was Southern, and not in Boston like the Bard, which is Willie's nickname. People call me Slash. Al Pacino's a character in the movie adapted by Shakespeare, just like the play, except Shakespeare liked boys to play girls, and no girls were allowed in his theaters all over the globe. Even girl parts, like the chick who looks like Kate Blanchett, who dresses like a boy like Kate did when she played Bob Dylan, that girl's named after the car, Porsche, to indicate she's wealthy. Even those girls were boys, but nobody was gay back then, no offense. The Shylock wants around a pound of Jeremy irons to pay for his sins because Jews are going to hell according to the angel kind church, which is like Catholics, but their pope gets divorced. Queen Elizabeth, who still isn't dead, banished the Jews. During the Holocaust, Hitler killed 6 million Jews. Israel was founded in 1948. One scholar, I like it like that 74 on cheappapers.com, suggested that Shakespeare was racist and hired a ghostwriter. Build to a passionate close. Oops, I wasn't supposed, that was my notes. So, we can learn much intelligence from Merchant. In conclusion, a quote from Pacino, who starred in Scarface and he was the devil in that one with Keanu Reeves. I am a Jew, hath not a Jew hand. I'll skip ahead to stay under time. If you prick us, do we not bleed? It's like, if you tickle us, do we not laugh? In conclusion, you grasp that Shakespeare is patriotic and would have stood on the white cliffs of Dover, Georgia with Dr. King. A strange poem. I very much enjoy working with students, and I enjoy celebrating the clumsy ways in which we are journeying toward discovery and learning and speaking what we believe, what we care about, what we value. And uh, one of the things that happens as an English professor is there's a kind of assumption about English professors that we've all read everything. And of course, in grad school, we learn very quickly to know how to pretend like we've read everything. Uh, but I'm interested in that space where the student is elevating the professor beyond what's necessary. The system sort of encourages that at times, and yet it also is it creates this divide that I don't necessarily think is good or healthy or normal, aside from, of course, the pursuit of knowledge and learning and that we're all doing together. So this poem imagines somebody coming up and asking if the speaker has read Moby Dick. It's called How to Pretend You've Read Moby Dick. There's an epigraph, nothing exists in itself, which is from Moby Dick. How to pretend you've read Moby Dick. Pause as though considering the sea. Consider the sea. Cup your hands in a shell over your ear and say, I'm considering the sea. Your inquisitors will feel slight, like a ship pestering the seas, hunting you, your wisdom a great whale. As they grapple with your unexpected waves, reconsider the sea. Say, I can't even think of the name of the ship or the captain, and they'll smell blood and squeal, Pequod and Ahab, assuming they've harpooned you. Just then, channeling the inconstant sea, spring forward and say, I spoke metaphorically in the persona of the sea, which casts aside, swallows, and dismisses the existence of Ahab and that ship. If you've lured them, I might also suggest that the sea, mother of our prehistoric fathers, drowns and defies these shallow discussions. Finally, gaze 2 inches to the right of their eye, as though you've lost something precious in their ear. When they respond, ignore them and whisper, we're all Ishmael. Call me Ishmael. One of the reasons it's been 8 years ago when I was looking at a job at Randolph College and considering the school, and I saw, I read about its history and read about Randolph-Macon Women's College. I'm the father of 3 daughters. They are all probably within 20 feet of here right now, into some forms of mischief. So my daughters are deeply meaningful to me and to my wife. But the idea of coming to a place that was built on a foundation of educating women and caring for each individual woman's journey is something that connected with me very deeply. This poem works in that space from the perspective of me as a father. It built out of an experience I had when I was younger, or when my daughters were younger. I suppose I was younger too. This is how it happened. But I was with my daughter one day in the kitchen, and this happened. It's called Little Girl, Little Lion. From the stool above our soaking dishes, she proclaims, I can never be a poet, like it's written on a sacred stone in her identity's medieval cathedral. I am her father. She does not turn to me. Why, I ask, pulling wrinkled hands out of the suds we share. The blue glass she's holding slips under the water to a hollow clank. Touching her wet elbows, I hear, Daddy, girls can't be poets. I've never thought about how my daughter mirrors herself in mommy, who doesn't write. I say the right things, pull her away from the sink to the floor, and bend to look in her searching eyes, brown like her mother's. They ask, Are you sure? I rush away to find Bishop Rich, Sexton Dickinson, any girl on the shelves above where the wild things are. Showing her the stack, she pulls out Plath and opens to Daddy. I snatch the book back like it's rat poison. Again, I can't be trusted. Can I be trusted? How can I wrecking ball the commandments she's constructed? I read the opening stanza, which ends in a sneeze, and she's satisfied. More Sylvia later, I say. Oh, darling, you'll be whatever you need to be. And if it's poet, the world will learn to welcome your wild words. Cathedrals will crumble, stars supernova, and nothing that pretends will remain. But your words are water, your life a metaphor only you complete. I say all this, our backs resting against the cold oven. Those poems are from my collection, Father, Child, Water, which this cover is very much a Moby Dick inspired cover. When I first showed this cover to my wife, who shares my snarky sense of humor, I showed the cover to my wife, and her reaction was, "That's great, Gary. Your book will always remind people of a better book." Which is like a great line, right? At least two of you in your little screen, you laughed for the first time at her line. I just want to say that I'm a little disappointed, but I get it. I understand. You can't always choose what you laugh at. I want to read a quick poem here by my predecessor, Jim Peterson. Jim was the first person who I met Jim long before I taught at Randolph, and he's somebody who is I consider a mentor. He lives up the street, a block and a half from here on Elmwood Avenue, a 10 minutes walk to my office on campus. This is called Mud by Jim Peterson. It's in his collection, Speech Minus Applause. Mud. The teacher's hand is alive in the garden. No longer male or female, it resembles the skin of mud crawling slowly like an ancient spider. We stay alert, careful to hoe around it, to plant between its fingers, and later to step over when picking the lettuce, the beets, the basil. In the kitchen, we watch our own hands slice tomatoes, squash avocados into the slender wheels, and we remember the hand of the teacher lounging in the afternoon sun among beans, cupping rain, whether cold or warm, encircling a weak sprout in the wind. This is from another book. This is a brand new book by William Evans. William is, this is a book just published by Simon & Schuster. William is a student in our Randolph MFA program right now. He has a brand new book of poems, We Inherit What the Fires Left. This is a poem of his called Clean. It also is about, it has an autobiographical angle. He's a father of a daughter as well. Clean. Still wet from the bath, the girl has a song caught in her skin. She moves side to side, limbs springing out like new animals. Stop, child. I warm the lotion and try to apply it to a moving target in and out of my reach. Hit an elbow, then a calf, then giggles, don't stop. And I practice aging while trying not to fire blanket the atomic girl who laughs at everything, including bedtime. And I finally glisten an arm, chest, left smiling cheek, not because I have gotten better, but the child has slowed with age, and now a playful hand is a potential fist, a scarred knuckle. The one leg will become less perfect after a fall. Remember when I wore crutches, Daddy? Not yet. Am I witness? She grabs the car keys, my empty-handed objection. The house empties when she leaves, the first time, a collapse of myth. I will remember before I became a ghost ship wasn't always a bedtime, or my once confident hands glistening, holding a brand new sun. So we inherit what the fires left. William Evans, Randolph, MFA student. I want to read a couple newer pieces. This is a literary magazine called Sugar House Review. I a few times a year will go into elementary schools and work with elementary school students, sometimes junior highs and high schools, depending on where I'm traveling, just to talk to them about writing and to share some poetry. This poem comes out of those experiences. This is called Week 3 with fourth graders and teaching poetry. This was born of an experience here in town at R.S. Payne Elementary School. My daughters went there, and some of them are at now at Dunbar Middle School, which is Dunbar is fascinating. It's of course named after the great Harlem Renaissance poet Paul Laurence Dunbar, and it is their mascot is the poet. And so I have this wonderful joy of, like, my oldest daughter plays soccer, and so I went when she was playing soccer, and I would get to cheer for the poet. It was so exciting. And I would pretend like the other team were all prose writers, and I would act like that was their mascot. I think I usually look fairly absurd in public spaces to most people, but when I'm standing on the sideline cheering against prose writers, the absurdity is at high levels. Week 3 with fourth graders and teaching poetry. They fidget. 25 half-formed widgets forced to fit the manic mini lecture, my manic mini lecture on metaphor, all her fun tricks and figurative friends. What animal are you, and what do you feel like? I asked them to write in their wide-ruled pages. Then, no idea why, I mention Wordsworth's Ode to Duty. I say to fourth graders, Ode to Duty. I say, duty. For a moment, the sudden silence misleads. I think maybe they know the poem. Their teacher, barely 22 and sitting in the back, eyes on her phone. Maybe she taught them the romantics. Then the truth in chuckles, giggles, and full guffaws as I hear repetition of duty. The teacher, Miss Boots, looks up, glad to see the kids engaged. No idea what I've stepped in. All at once, I know what must be done. I repeat, Ode to Duty. They laugh. I'm killing it. I say, the duty of a poet, as far as I'm concerned, is never to stink. Half of them wide-eyed glance back at the teacher. The others hold their sides. Sometimes I say, my duty brings great joy. Sometimes my duty brings sorrow. I point to the kid in the front and I say, give me a metaphor, Jackson. He grins. My duty is like that funky firecracker smell. Pop, pop, stink cloud. I say, brilliant simile. Miss Boots, who's heard too much, says, that's enough, Jackson. We'll have no more. I interrupt. That's right, boys and girls. No more similes. Time for a metaphor. Jackson, your duty is not like a funky firecracker smell. A kid in the back shouts, pop out, stink cloud. Miss Boots says, enough. You aren't animals. I say, no, Miss Boots, today they are. They're animals learning to growl and claw and fly. Another kid says, and to duty. I correct, ode to duty. That's Wordsworth. And take Layla here. She'll tell you, Layla, what are you? Layla looks at Miss Boots, back at me, out the window, at the wind and light. She scans the scribbled lines of her page and closes her eyes. The room's silent, awaiting some new duty riff. But before she speaks, her eyes press out several quiet tears. None of us know anything. Layla pushes her hands into her hair and says, I'm a dragonfly, a globe skimmer. I don't want to go home or to be here. I'm above the river, gliding free on every wind, where I see things only dragonflies see. My whole head is an eye. Thank you for letting me hang out with you and read you some poetry, spend some time sharing words. It's good to see you here. Hi, Hank. I see you down there. Um, Please feel free to reach out, send me an email, ever, whenever, about anything. There's a certain isolation that happens from in the alum world where you're like in and out of connection with people and community. And one of the great values of a day like today is connection and return to touch points of value. And I know for the many of you that I've met traveling around the country and talking about great things at Randolph, what happens for me in those spaces is a great joy to watch you all interact with each other and to hear about the college and to say, to offer your ideas. And so I just want to say thank you for being present with words today and with each other, and being a gift in sharing time now. Thank you, and I'll see you all later.
Thank you so much, Gary. This was fabulous. We appreciate you spending some time with us on this We the Strong Day. This was absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Stay We the Strong. Bye-bye.